September. Welcome to our September webinar. My name is Michelle, and I'm the sitting chairwoman of the Florida Agritourism Association. And I'm super excited that everyone has decided to take time out of their day to just to get together and learn a little bit more about agritourism and maybe some great practices that will help you to be more successful in your agritourism operation. Today, we'll be discussing the Good Neighbor document. We've actually been working on this for quite some time, and I think I'm going to pass it off to Lena to give us a little bit of background on this.
Sure. I know many of you were in our membership meeting right before the conference started back in July, but this work actually began last fall. The Florida Farm Bureau actually approached our association to find out if we could offer some recommendations for how agritourism operators could better deal with offsite impacts. And in the statute, the agritourism statute, it really only gives local governments the ability to deal with offsite impacts. And surprisingly, we've heard from many of you and have discovered that many counties in particular don't have offsite impacts for really common things like noise, sound, parking, etc. Well, I'm not sure what they would do with parking, but in any case, so what happened was we took this to the board, and at Michelle's recommendation, an ad hoc committee was formed, and a group of the board members met over several months to really hash out this document, come up with something that would be useful for all of you as you continue to be successful agritourism operators. And when we brought it to the membership meeting, more recommendations were made. So this document is really a result of your input, of the board's work. And today, Michelle's going to walk through it and hear what you all have to say. And ideally, we'll be rolling this out so that all members of our association and agritourism operators can utilize it well.
Okay, thank you so much, Lena. So just a little bit of background about my agritourism operation. We actually started just before the agritourism law was passed. And at our inception, we met a lot of struggle with the county about, what is agritourism? Is this a business? Is it farming? What is it? And we went through that whole process of getting the law put together and passed with Lisa Ard and a lot of other great people. But I really wish that I had had this document before we got started, because I really feel like it would have been so beneficial to really just take a moment and look at all of the things that we are doing and the impact that we have on the community, our neighbors, because I feel like it would have been really beneficial to me. And so together with our board members and the other people on our committee, we came up with just essential questions that I think any agritourism operator should ask themselves. These are not rules. These are things that you should consider. And I think that they're really going to help you have a more successful operation without so many complaints from your neighbors or so much oversight from your local governments. So if you take a look at the form that's listed on your screen, you'll see that we said this document is simply to be used by our members as a guide with questions for you to consider as you evaluate your impact. And we also, within this document on the electronic version, we have links to the agritourism statutes, which are the most important things for you to know. And it looks like Sarah might link us to those things, but I want you to see that the statute itself is there as a link, the Right to Farm Act, which really helps us. This statute that Sarah just brought up, um, you really need to read it, know what it states, be well versed on the statute and the protections that it offers you. The Right to Farm Act also lists agritourism as a farming activity, and it has offered us a little bit more protection than even the statutes had. But there's definitely great information in the Right to Farm Act that offer you protections. For example, one of those things is that if you've been farming and a neighbor decides that they want to complain about what's going on your farm, they are limited in the complaining that they can do because you were there first. Farmers come first. And so I think it basically gives them a 1 year opportunity to complain if you're a new farm. So you need to look that over and be well versed in that. And then really the OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration guidelines as an employer. So once you leave, yes, you're a farmer, and now you decide, I want to be this business owner. I want to run an agritourism operation on my farm. You may find yourself hiring people. And on top of all of the other things that you have to consider being a good employer. And one of the concerns of noise, for example, OSHA has some guidelines for noise that your employees might be subjected to in a workplace environment. And so not only are you protecting yourself from your neighbors complaining, but also potential complaints and lawsuits from your employees, something to consider. And I will tell you that as a wedding venue, I've been able to use OSHA guidelines as the reason why we need to turn that music down. So that's one of the things that's been a benefit to me. So if you look at the document, I'm just going to walk you through. I don't want to read it all to you because I know that you guys can read, but I want you to look at these essential questions. So first and foremost, are you proposing to operate an agritourism activity on land that currently has an agricultural classification? If you don't have greenbelt on your land, you are not an agritourism operation. You can buy as many signs as you want. It's not going to make you an operator. If you do not have that classification on your land, that has to be the very first step. And you can read through it. What activities, services, and products are you planning to offer? How many guests will you accommodate? That one is so important as a foundational question because it really impacts so many other things. Parking being the very first of those things. So the building that you're in or planning on having guests come into, how many can it accommodate safely and legally? So one of the things that you'll have to do if you're just getting started is invite your fire marshal out to your property, and they're going to tell you how many guests you can safely accommodate in your space. And they're going to give you a capacity sign that you'll need to post inside of your facility. They're also going to tell you what classification you have for your space. So, and then that will impact so many other decisions. So do your activities fall within the definition of an agritourism activity? So read the statutes. Certainly, I want to encourage everybody to be very creative and market your property in a way that's going to bring guests to your property. But read those statutes very carefully because that, is something that is written vaguely on purpose because we don't want to limit your creativity, but also, then that vague definition opens you up to oversight by your local government if you have something going on that's making lots of complaints from your neighbors. So good neighbor practices. So, have you established channels of communication that encourage neighbors to bring any concerns to your attention for resolution? So, I want to throw that out and just kind of have an open question and answer with the people that are participating today. So, what have you done to open up channels of communication? So, let's make this an interactive webinar. Would anybody like to offer what they're doing?
Feel free to speak up or use the chat box.
One thing I didn't do at the beginning, and I want to make sure that we recognize all of the board members that are here. Sarah, I'm unable to see who is present today. I see Alan Hitchcock. He's one of our board members. Is there
Yes,
anyone
we have
else?
Michelle, obviously, Alan, and Rose.
And Rose. So thank you, board members, for being here today and always being so accessible. I'll throw it out there since we don't have an. Oh, Alan, tell us what you do to open lines of communication.
Well, I'm driving, so you please bear with me for a minute here. So, we do a lot of things to open communications. We actually we have a lot of events, and we always invite all our neighbors to them. And the one of the things that we do is, for example, we will do something, say, for the Stop Children's Cancer. So we'll invite all our neighbors as our guest, and they're invited to a number of events that we do. And we created a group messenger system so that, for example, we are allowed to have fireworks, but it's very important after we pull the permits and do all the appropriate paperwork, communication with the fire marshal, that we also don't have to, but we communicate with our neighbors to say fireworks will be at 9:30 tonight, and everyone usually responds, "Thank you very much for the heads up. We'll be sure to go out in our chairs and watch the fireworks." So instead of it becoming a problem, it becomes a positive.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. We do that too. We learned that one the hard way. So prior to doing that, I would have some of my neighbors say, "Oh my goodness, when those booms went off last night, it just about gave me a heart attack." And so we started doing the same thing, Alan, where we would invite them to, we would let them know there's going to be a fireworks display around 9 o'clock. Grab your lawn chairs and enjoy the show. And so then that solved that problem. So certainly, I think that's a benefit. We do also have several events throughout the year where we invite our neighbors onto the property. And it definitely, there are friends as well, but we have a Christmas party every year. And if you're not doing this, all of you agritourism operators, if you're not doing this yet, we're coming into the holiday season right now. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to establish a channel of communication with your neighbors. Have some kind of get together where, what we do is we invite Santa Claus to come to our property. And then I go to Five and Below, and I go to the Dollar Tree and Dollar General and places like that. And we buy lots of gifts. I ask my neighbors and to come to this party. We ask them how many children they're bringing, whether it's a girl or a boy, what their age group is. And I do a broad age group. So if they're within, a baby all the way up to 6 years old, that's one of the groups. So we'll buy some toys, and then Santa gets to give them a toy. And our neighbors absolutely love this event. We have done it several ways where we'll buy all of the food forks. We feed them too. But a couple of years we've had potluck where our neighbors are actually bringing some food as well. And then they feel like they're contributing too. So it really is a wonderful event. We actually have it's kind of ridiculous, but we have a golf cart parade, a Christmas parade on the property and just in the neighborhood. And it really has been a wonderful event for our neighborhood. But, at that event, I will say, listen, friends and family, please let me know if we're ever too loud or if you ever need anything. We're here for you. You are our neighbors. We love you. And, please, here's my number. Please call me, because sometimes we do have new neighbors that move in. And how I get that information out is I have a Facebook page. And then I also create a flyer and I take it to every home with just the little roads that are around us. So I definitely get out there and invite them. So that's one of the things that I do. Does anyone else want to share any channels of communication that they have? Okay. Other things that I do, we do some sponsorships of local children. We've done lots of different things, but for a calendar girl or some of those things like that. Charity events, if there's ever a family that's in need, we will host a charity event here at cost so that it really helps them out. We give back to the community. If anybody brings me their child's school fundraiser, you know that I'm going to buy something. So and I have 5 children of my own. So that's something that we do. And we also offer a discounted rate for our neighbors for events. So these are things that we do here at Wishing Well Barn. And I thank you, Alan, for sharing what you do too. The next thing is, do you seek and listen to feedback? We've had people call us and say that music is too loud. And so we will go and turn it down and right away and then call them back. How does that sound? Are we good? So we definitely listen to feedback. How you respond to complaints is everything. If you shut them down and say, sorry, you can't say that, you're not going to get very far. And then they'll take it to the next level. So we don't want you to do that. So the next set of questions, essential questions for you, are all related to noise. And just in speaking with property appraisers and local county officials, when they're telling me about things that are going on in the Tampa Bay area related to agritourism, noise is almost always the very first complaint. And so, noise is tricky. Your area, I know we have people from all over the state that have agritourism operations, and you may have a noise ordinance that is different from other people. So you need to find out what that is. What are the rules that apply to you? You can usually call your local county government and find out. They'll tell you exactly what ordinances apply to you based on your address. And, that's something you can ask them. How is that monitored? How do you monitor it? So I can do the same thing. One of the things that we do here at my facility and my farm is we put in our own sound system. I had a DJ come and create that for us. So when DJs come to our facility, they're using our system, and I have a main control that I can turn down if I need to. And I have them sign a document that says if they're too loud, they will never be welcome back onto my property. So I'll be glad to share that. If anybody reaches out to me for that DJ contract, I'll be glad to share that with you if you just email wishingwellbarn@gmail.com. There's other essential questions on there. Definitely, it's up to you to find out what rules apply to you at your agritourism operation. The next thing is traffic. So if you'll scroll up just a little bit, Sarah. So traffic is a big deal. It's a safety issue. First and foremost, we did have a venue that actually had a loss of life on their property related to an event because they had a railroad track going across the main entrance of their property. And if there is some kind of safety issue related to your property, it is your responsibility to address that issue. Whatever it is, if you are inviting the public onto your property, you need to take the lead on handling that issue. I will be honest with you, traffic is not an issue where we are because we're kind of out here pretty far out. But one of the things that we did do early on was we invited our local fire station to come out to our property. We're connected to Station 25 here in Hillsborough County. And we invited them to come out and tell us exactly what we needed to do if there were an emergency. And so they were concerned about our entrance, about turning the fire truck into our entrance. And so what we did was we had to take just the straight fence line, and we widened it so that they could make that big turn into our property. So it cost us a little bit of money, but maybe it'll save a life one day. And we've actually had them out here. Another thing that they did have us do is we put down crushed asphalt all the way up to the barn so that if they have to drive up here, they can get here without any fear of getting stuck. And so they gave us the input that we needed to have so that if we had an emergency, they could get in and get out of our property fast and safely. And we actually did have a man have a heart attack at a wedding. And without their quick response, that man would have died. Absolutely. He had the widowmaker heart attack. And without their fast response, it would have cost him his life. So I'm very thankful that we invited them so many years ago and took that very seriously. So I would highly recommend that you do that too, so that you're prepared. Our next step is to buy an AED. So they're so expensive, but we're going to definitely get one. Thank you, Alan. So the next thing is parking. And parking is a big deal. Whatever your capacity that you're setting for your barn, the fire marshal will tell you what the maximum is. You can set that yourself. We have stopped hours at $2.99 because we don't want to put in a sprinkler system and we don't want to change the designation of our facility. But you need to have enough parking so that if everybody drove their own car, how are you going to handle that? Those of you who are having corn mazes or large ticket events, sunflower festivals, there's so many different fun festivals going on throughout the state. I can't wait to visit some of your farms this fall. But how you handle parking is so important for safety reasons and also just for the comfort of your guest. Do you have handicap parking close enough to your facility? That's something that's going to be very important for you as well. Designated handicap parking. We have parking attendants when the guests are arriving to set our parking up nice and neatly. But addressing those parking issues is something that's an ongoing issue for us. I've been to Valley View, and Mr. Hitchcock has a gorgeous parking lot. I love his parking, and it makes me jealous. And I'm so glad I got to visit because now I can look at mine and say, okay, what can I do to make mine better? And that's one of the things that really helps you in doing the farm tours. During our last conference, we invited people to go on farm tours. And if you have a chance to do that, I would encourage you to see how other people are doing things successfully and take some of those ideas back to your farm and make them your own. So the next one is lighting. And, lighting is one of those things that can be a safety issue, certainly a comfort issue for the people that are touring your facility and deciding if they want to come there. Lighting in your parking lot, that's something that I need to work on myself. I have lighting out there, but I need to add some more. Light intrusion, I have asked my neighbors, if we're ever a problem, let me know. And they've never mentioned lighting, but that's something that can be a concern for your neighbors. So considering the impact of your lighting going beyond your property and into your neighbor's property, how would that impact them is one of the things that we're recommending that you consider. Are there any local ordinances that would impact lighting? What steps can you take to mitigate? I have discovered a really great hedge product. It's called Sea Breeze, and it's a bamboo plant, and it grows so fast. If anybody wants to know where I get them, it's a wonderful hedge, and it grows really fast. So if you have a lighting issue, I'll be glad to share that information if anyone would like it. Literally, I plant it, and it's like 4 feet tall, and then 2 years later, it's 20 feet tall. So you'll love these, and they don't spread this way. So that's a really great way to do a buffer between you and your neighbors if you're having problems with lighting. Other things to consider. I don't want to read these to you, but let's just take a break. And does anybody have any questions so far?
I think I would like to make the comment. I think it's really important to, once you get all these things in place, is to share them with your local politicians so that they are aware of all the wonderful things that we're doing on our properties, and how we're concerned about all these different issues and what we're doing to address them. An effort to do that really helps uh, when issues come up or people bring things that aren't exactly true to them. If they're well educated and knowledgeable about what you're doing, it makes their job much easier.
That's a fantastic suggestion, Alan. Just inviting them out to your property and say, hey, you may be new, especially right now we're in election cycles. If you have a new county commissioner or you have a new elected official in your area, inviting them out. I don't know if you know about us, but I'd love to tell you about our property and the things that we're doing to be a great neighbor. That's a great idea. Fundraisers for politicians, it's a great way to get people out to your property too. And then, supporting the ones that you support. All right, let's keep going. So have you considered any other offsite impacts? So such as dust. I did have one of my neighbors have a complaint about the dust that we create, and we handled that in a way that was courteous, and we actually went and cleaned her porch for her because she had some dust on it from one of our events. And so, whatever it takes to make them feel heard and respected, I think is worth your time. Some of those things may seem silly when you hear them and you think, oh, that's just ridiculous. But, go the extra mile for your neighbors. And then, first of all, I think that's just the way we all should be. But also it will help you in toning down some of those complaints that you might be hearing. If they know that they can call you, then they don't have to call anybody else, right? To complain about what's going on. The next one is how will you manage trash and litter that may be associated with your activities? So, we all have the opportunity to get a dumpster. You can lease one or rent one. You may be able to get one from your county. How we handle our trash here is we obviously have trash that runs twice a week here in my neighborhood, but we also take it to the dump. So we have a trailer. We load that stuff up and we take it to the dump, and we don't want to keep it on our property. We didn't want the smell. We didn't want to deal with birds or rats or anything like that. So we literally just remove it. If we left it on our property, even for just a few days, it could really cause a problem. The other thing that we do is I have lots of grandchildren, and I'm blessed with 8 of them. And I take my grandkids on up and down our road, and we pick up trash. We have those big grabbers, and we'll reach down into the ditches on our road. If I see trash on my road, I automatically assume that it is from my venue. I just embrace that. I don't care where it came from. I'm going to get it up because I don't want my neighbors to say, "Oh, that was probably from the wedding." So I'm proactive about it, and I want to pass that on to my grandchildren about, keeping your community clean. So we do our barn cleanup up and down the road. And so somebody mentioned that as a comment, and that's definitely something that everyone should consider. If you're responsible, if you take responsibility, then nobody has to enforce that on you, right? Additional local and state permitting, licensing, and testing requirements that may apply. These are things that are going to be specific to your operation. There could be permitting or licensing or even testing requirements that are related to what you're doing on your farm. We do not have a functioning kitchen on my property. And the reason is because I don't want to deal with that. So all of the food products come in from outside, and that way we don't have to deal with those items. So whatever you're planning on taking on at your operation, it's your responsibility to get all of the permits, licenses, and et cetera that you need to. And then the last question on this document, I think, is the most important one. You, as a farmer, you are, by inviting the public onto your property, you're creating a brand. And some of it may be your name. It could be the name of your operation, but you want people to feel great about that brand. So it's so important that you really think about your reputation as a community member, as a family in your community, and then as a business owner. So how your farm is viewed will impact certainly the bottom line. You're going to make more money and make your farm more profitable if you are considerate to your neighbors. But your reputation is everything. One bad review or one family being taking offense to what you're doing on your property can hurt your reputation. So no matter where you are in your operation, whether you're brand new, you're just considering getting started, or maybe you've been doing it for just a few years, or if you're old school like Alan and I, you can always start fresh and become that great neighbor that you want to be. Maybe you're having a problem right now with one of your neighbors. Just push that to the back burner and start fresh. Don't be afraid to ask them to come to a Christmas celebration or to some type of event at your property. You can always mend those fences and start fresh. And I want to encourage all of you to consider doing that, finding a way to become friendly with your neighbors. Maybe they won't come to this event. Maybe they'll come and they'll be grumpy. They can be the Grinch at your Christmas party. But I would still invite them and try to find a way to build your reputation, build your brand, and become a positive role model in your community. And then our goal is at the bottom, and I'll just read it to you. Our goal is to help you make your farm and its agritourism operation successful. An important part of this is taking measures to be a good neighbor. So does anyone have anything that they would like to say?
Can we rename it?
What would you like to rename it, Matt?
Tips to be a successful agritourism operator.
Well, they are good tips. The team, the people that were on the committee did vote on the name, but when we roll it out, we can certainly add that as a subline. Thank you.
I just think that's being a good neighbor can be used against us. That implies that we're not a good neighbor already.
Yeah.
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 I do believe that. If someone has beef and they're going to say, "Oh, you're not being a good neighbor." Even your own organization says if to be a good neighbor, you should be doing these things. And I didn't get an invitation, and you know how it goes. I think
Yeah.
it
Well,
takes us down a rabbit hole that we probably can avoid by just saying something different, by setting the stage
mhm.
of something different.
So, Matt, tips to being a good agritourism operator?
Yeah, tips to being how to run your operation to be successful, because that's what we said the document is. And I think good neighbor, it goes hand in hand with that. But saying be a good neighbor, the haters are gonna use that against us. And unfortunately, that's a sad truth. And I'm to be the one that has to say it before somebody else does.
Yeah, I really don't have an objection other than there are no tips here. They're just questions. Have you asked yourself these things?
Yeah, and I think that if somebody has beef, they say, "Oh, I see you have this good neighbor," or a government employee can say, "Oh, you're not being a good neighbor because your own organization says you should do this, this, and this." And I
but
see,
actually we don't though. We're not
I
telling.
know what we know, but they're going to twist the narrative to their point.
Mhm. So Matt,
I know that. I'm just
what
saying, I'm
what
just
if
going
they
on record.
say what if they say you're not following the tips of being a good operator?
They can say what they want. I'm saying the neighbor issue is a hot button when complaints come in. That's all I'm saying. I'm just going on record saying I do have reservations, which I've spoke about the day after I heard about it, along with everybody else in the audience. I'm the guy that's saying what everybody else won't. So I love y'all, but I've just got to share my feelings. That's what this is all about. So I would move forward with that. Think about it carefully. I have spoke about this with council, and they had the same concerns. So that's all I'm going to say. But I love you guys for all the hard work.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate you giving your input and being so open and honest with your feelings. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Steve. I appreciate you all letting me listen in. I'm actually the mayor of the town of Southwest Ranches, and one of our ag folks forwarded on this invite to me. So this was really awesome to be able to listen to. I don't know if you're familiar with us. We're a town in Broward County, outside really a suburb of Fort Lauderdale, but we are right up against the Everglades. And we're about the only place in Broward County that you can have ag tourism. And so we've got some great operators, and we've got some operators that kind of bump into our codes and things like that, and have more issues, kind of like what you've talked about with fireworks. We've absolutely had that very specific. We have a lot of uh, equestrian folks in town, and that's a big issue. And I just love the advice you gave of giving a heads up. We're actually trying to do that more, as kind of promote it as a town as well. Inviting your neighbors, all awesome, awesome things that I think at the end of the day, we're an ag town. We may be in a weird place to be called an ag town, but we are an ag town. And so I love the presentation. I love that I could listen in, and just want to say thank you and appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for being the mayor. I know that's a lot of work, so we really appreciate your input. I'll have to get down there and take a look. So are you an operator as well?
Here, let me turn on my camera. I should have done that a long time ago. Sorry. No, I'm not. I'm actually, I just own some acreage down here, and we moved out here. I have three daughters. When they were young, my wife and I moved out here because we thought we would get some horses, but just turned out that our middle daughter, who was huge into horses, her next door neighbor, had more horses than kids. So we kind of piggybacked on top of that, and but I love the open space. I love the ag. But we have some, like I said, we have some awesome operators in town that do that. We do have some folks where we've had some run-ins, and so the goal is exactly what you said. Is let's just be respectful of one another, and what you, I don't know, I couldn't say it any better. You've already all said it all. So this is awesome content, and I just would love to seek it out more and more because I think this is what everybody wants. This is what everybody wants. It's awesome.
Thank you
And
so much.
Mr. Mayor, don't you have a honey operation down there somewhere in
Oh, we've
agriculture?
got a few honey operations. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I think Steve Byers might be one of them.
Um, maybe it may be. Oops, this is why I didn't turn my camera. It keeps turning off by mistake. The name sounds familiar. I think you may be right, but it's not someone I know personally.
Okay. He bought some property up here up the road from me. So I guess he's
Ah,
split
okay.
his time between Jefferson County and Broward County.
We have, as we've gotten a little bit more crowded down here, as properties start being subdivided and such, we've had a number of folks move up to the Ocala kind of area where, they can get their space again. So I'm not sure exactly where you're located, but that's, it's not unusual. We have, yeah. We try and retain our open space as much as possible, but developers and such keep kind of subdividing us. So
Right. And that's one of our goals, is to help people keep those spaces open, help farmers make their property more profitable so that they can keep the land, that legacy land in their family. I'm sure you want to have your daughters close to you and keep that property,
absolutely.
right? That's one of our big goals. And a big part of that for us is helping our operators stay out of trouble. We want them to be successful. We don't want their neighbors complaining about them. And that's really where the complaints come from, are from their neighbors, the people that are closest to them. So the impact is felt more by them than anyone else. So that's why we want to tell them, reach out to your neighbors, make good friends. If I may ask, who invited you? Which one of your which one of your
I thought you were going to ask me that question. I'm surrounded
yeah?
by them, and I'd have to look back at my emails to,
Okay. Well, we want to thank them. So
yeah.
So our goal is that this document gets out. We are going to be publishing it, but we wanted to roll it out to the membership first, and certainly anybody else that was interested, because we want everybody to be successful. And we also don't want a lot of oversight from local governments. We don't want them to make rulings, and they're really not allowed to, other than addressing offsite impacts. And so the essential questions that we're asking everyone to consider for their own operation are what we came up with. And we definitely did, call it How to Be a Good Neighbor, because the essential questions are related mostly to those things, or how you're impacting those around you who are your neighbors. And certainly they are going to help you be more successful as a business. But really it addresses more of the impact on those around you more than anything else. So thanks for being here, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for letting me join in. I was going to see if I could quick find that name for you, but I have to dig deeper to find it.
Oh,
It
that's
was a
okay.
month or so ago that I got it. So, but
Okay. Well, we're
but
glad
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to
Rose?
step in and just let everyone know that we are going to post it on the website so that it'll be available for our members to look at and review.
Awesome.
Can I just a quick question there? So I'm not a member. I'm just a guest listening in. Is that restricted? Is there a link that I could share with some of our
It is not
agritourism?
restricted. If you go to visitfloridafarms.org and go under the operators tab, you'll see it.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Got my drink, but I finished 188.
So, Mayor Steve, I'd like to ask you a question. How
Yeah.
how do you think local government officials will view this?
So, here's my thought on it. I think I can only speak for our town, and I can't say that we're certainly not a typical town of Broward County. I can tell you that much. And I suspect that we're not a typical town of mid Florida either, because we're sort of a hybrid in the middle.
Right.
But I will tell you this, that as the mayor, my heart is with agritourism and agriculture as a whole. That's the roots of our town, and that's what I want to promote. And that's what, our history. We are right next to the Everglades. I mean, we were all either cattle ranches or farms, 25, 30 years ago. And and so that's the heart of who we are. We have a lot of fantastic ranchers and farmers that are still here, but our world is changing, and so we're getting more and more. We got larger properties, and what that tends to bring in for us is people that are taking large properties and building, to be honest with you, mansions on top of it, right? So my challenge is to preserve this agriculture that is so key to who we are and our history and everything, and make them. And I'm just going to use your phrase, make them good neighbors in both ways. It's not a one-way thing. And I apologize, this keeps locking out on me, but to be neighbors both ways. So a lot of times, I'm just gonna leave that off. Trust me, I'm still here. But my difficulty is that new folks moving in see some of the activities that are going there, especially the sound, everything you touched on. It was awesome. That's the sound, the parking, and fireworks. Those are the three. The three biggies. And what do? They immediately go to code, and they say, "What's going on there?" And let's get code out there. And so then I'm in the middle, to be honest with you. My heart is with the ag side because that's why I'm out here. But once you get code involved, then it creates a whole process. It creates the process where maybe it doesn't apply because agritourism has some special rights, but maybe it does apply. And so what happens is it turns into a big thing. Lawyers get involved, the magistrate gets involved, and it gives ag tourism to that group that's moving in. It creates an adversarial type of relationship where it's not viewed as a positive, it's viewed as a negative. And so I love the suggestions that were brought out here because I want those to kind of get out there so that we can do those things that you mentioned and turn this kind of, which it's not negative right now. I would say there are negative, like I said, there's some great um, uh, folks out there that are doing it right, and some that are frankly, I think, pushing the limits and not doing it in a friendly way. And not that they're doing anything that's illegal, but it's just creating friction where there doesn't necessarily have to be friction. And so yeah, so I think I forgot your question.
But you did a good job. I mean, I know that you get caught in the middle of that, and I thought that you were the perfect person to give us feedback on that.
Yeah, yeah. I really feel like um, that if we can disperse the recommendations that I just heard in this presentation here, that's why I want to get that link because I want to start sending it out to some of the folks. And I think if we can get that out there and maybe even have a special town meeting and do some of this stuff so that the word really gets out there, I think we can. We're behind the eight ball, right? Because there's been some things that got a lot of press and publicity. Press isn't the right word. The press wasn't out there, but the neighbors heard about it, and so there is this growing feeling that ag tourism is something we don't want and don't like. And so I want to get out in front of that. And so this is a great tool, and maybe that's the way to do it is to use this presentation, do some sort of a special meeting, and get everybody out there so they can see both sides. Right now it's like anything else. It's like anything else that any other sort of quote unquote code violation. Once it pops up, it becomes adversarial and it becomes a negative. So if we can get out in front of it with those that have not been negatively impacted by those things yet and create more of a positive conversation back and forth. I loved what you said about, getting that open line of communication. That's so critical. And if we can get, folks to doing that, being proactive in that way, I just think that it's a way to start an effort on towards a positive relationship rather than it always being. Right now, it's almost always either you hear nothing because it went well, or it's a negative. Those are the only two things. There's very few times that I hear something positive. It's either they did it right and it's just like, okay, I hear nothing, or it's a negative. So if we can get some positive messaging out there, I think that'll help.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Your input honestly is invaluable to us. It's so important. Having a town meeting sounds like a great idea. And one of the things that we're working on as an association is creating ambassadors that will be closer to locations throughout the state so that we can network together and work together to just to make us all more successful and solve problems together. And we'd love for you to be a part of your whoever ends up being your ambassador closest to you. I'm sure that they'll be happy to be a part of that town meeting. And I certainly would come too if you invited me or any of the other board members. We'll try our best to get there. So thank you so much for your input. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Does anybody else have any comments to make? All right. I feel like we're coming to the end of it. I'd just like to thank you all for being here today. And we're putting out new webinars for Steve or anyone else that's on. If you'll go on and like the Florida Agritourism Facebook page, you'll be able to see when webinars are coming up. And we have several really great ones coming up. One that we're looking at right now is addressing private roads, and we're working on putting that one together. So hopefully you guys can attend the next webinar that we have. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everyone.